Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to our Auracle X deep dive. This is the free control software from iConnectivity that allows us to do some really powerful things quite simply. Now, in our previous videos, we talked about some general setup tips and tricks. We've updated firmware on all our devices. We did a little bit of a look at MIDI routing. Now I want to talk about filter and remapping. Now, I have to admit, this is something that I don't often do, but I've heard from a lot of my students and a lot of you out there watching this that have really complex MIDI setups. Maybe you're in a studio using a lot of different MIDI gear. And this can be a real kind of lifesaver, right? To solve some problems that maybe you would have to deep dive into some menus to figure out how to change. You could do all this in Auracle X and apply this directly to your interface, which is great. So let's dive into this and take a look at how to do some filter and remapping. Now, in our previous video, I showed you this on the XL. It's the same thing, no matter if we're on the XL, XM, or Play Audio 1U, but just to be an equal opportunity MIDI router here, let's go into the filter and remap page on the Mio XM. So that's what we're going to use for this. Now, this is going to look a little different because we can filter and remap both our input and our output. And as opposed to these being split between two pages, they're all on the left-hand side here. So for example, on the XM, if I want to filter or remap one of my inputs, I can click here and do that with all my inputs listed below. Or if I want to do this with outputs, I can choose outputs here and see all those listed below. Now, I said I was going to do this with the XM. Let's jump over to the XL because you'll see the page change, filter and remap. Here's our inputs, 8 DIN inputs. As soon as I click output, you'll see those additional outputs show up to get to all 12 outputs listed on the page. Okay. Now I'm going to man of my word. I'm going to stick to doing this and on the Mio XM here. Let's do some filtering. Okay. So let's filter whatever goes into the input of DIN 1, right? So we're going to click this and we want to say, okay, what do we want to filter out? We want to filter out node off messages on MIDI channel 1. Okay, so we click that and we filter those out. We want to filter them out on all channels, take all node off messages, which could be a really weird, potentially bad idea, but I can click all here to apply that to all 16 MIDI channels, which is great. If I want to get out of any of these, I can click click all, and that's going to wipe that out again. Or like in previous videos, I can click clear all here to clear that mapping as well. Now, next thing I could do is I could do some remapping instead. And this is, again, could be really helpful if you're using backline gear and you don't want to menu dive or you're not sure exactly how to do this. You may be able to solve your problem directly in the Auracle software, which is great. So for example, still on the input, let's say we want to take program change messages here that are happening on channel 1, and we want to send those to MIDI channel 16. We've now remapped those program changes that were coming in on channel 1 to channel 16, which is really, really helpful, again, particularly when dealing with backline gear. But we can also apply this filter and remapping to output. So we can go to outputs and say, okay, let's take whatever's coming out of output 4 and let's remap our MIDI channel. So we're on remap here. Let's take our program change messages on channel 1, send them to channel 6. And let's take what's going on channel 6 and, or let's not do that. Let's clear. Let's do channel 5 and send that to channel 2. Right? I'm just feeling crazy, right? And again, we could go in and do some filtering and filter out things. Final thing I want to show you here on the filter page. We have these system filter messages where we could filter out all sysx messages, start messages, timing clock, stop, song select. Again, could potentially get dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So approach this with caution. But again, for more complex MIDI routing setups, particularly setups where you're in the studio with a lot of MIDI gear, I think this could be really, really helpful. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about this, check out our knowledge base that's on our support site. You could find a link to that below. And if you have any questions, maybe specific to your gear that we didn't cover in this video, and you can't find an answer in that knowledge base, you'll be able to submit a support ticket and reach out to our really awesome support team using the info below. Thanks so much for watching this video. We're going to continue our deep dive. Let's see what we have up next. We're going to talk about saving presets, which is quite important with this gear. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.